I will now introduce several practice methods to help you and me jump from the mind into the heart. Although these practices have already been discussed in earlier books, I'm quite confident that if you have read this far and have practiced before, your entry point, proficiency, and depths of realization will now be completely different. First, a reminder: the word practice here is my translation of the Sanskrit term sahana. Some people translate it as a cultivation or spiritual practice, but none of these fully capture its meaning. Even spiritual practice is not quite accurate. These translations fail to convey the essence of surrender and releasing the world. This is why I often use the original Sanskrit term directly in my books. True sadhana is, at most, releasing this world and surrendering. In other words, through practice, we are simply learning to surrender. Surrender to whom? To where? Ultimately, we surrender only to our true self. When a person can surrender completely, a short circuit in life occurs, a thorough short circuit that dissolves all concepts, including the I. Surrender also contains another realization: the continuous acknowledgement and affirmation that everything we can experience in this world, the things before your eyes, our interactions with others, all experiences, arises from the relative. The relative itself is born through comparison, opposition, and friction. Without opposition or friction, this world would not exist. Only the absolute would remain. Surrender is, at most, the complete realization of life, of this. Therefore, do not create any further opposition or friction toward the relative. Let it come as it comes, let it go as it goes. Do not affirm it again, do not expand it, and do not reinforce the existence that it never truly had. In this way, a person stops creating friction or opposition with the relative at every moment and naturally discovers that the relative can no longer have any effect on this body and mind in the human world. One unknowingly settles into the realm of the absolute, the dimension of oneness and boundlessness. You do nothing. You simply stop letting the relative have any power. One then returns to oneness. That is so to say, what are we practicing? There is actually nothing to practice. Truth cannot be attained through practice. It has nothing to do with effort or action. At most, we hand ourselves over, release the world, and release ourselves. Choose or our true nature then naturally emerges. I wish to further remind you here that any practice a person cannot awaken. Choose cannot be practiced. Awakening does not rely on any practice. Any sadhana can, at the most, bring us to the threshold of awakening and help us make a firm decision. I must awaken. But the most difficult part to understand is this. In the end, through practice and surrender, we even let go of the determination to awaken. Only then do we unknowingly awaken. Any sadhana can, at most, help us realize that everything we see in the human world is, at best, a collective, very solid illusion. Not only all events and phenomena, but even the material world, everything that feels objectively existent is illusion. This is the most difficult point for ordinary people to understand. Practice, at most, bring us one pointedness of the consciousness. One pointedness naturally brings purification, reducing or even dissolving the mind's thoughts. One pointedness naturally allows us to realize that nothing else matters. Only awakening is important. This is only There is only one path, awakening. Because awakening is your true nature. You don't need to seek it, pursue it, or even practice it. At most, you push yourself to discover that there is no second path. Only awakening must happen. When that time comes, after awakening, you will discover that nothing actually happened. You may even realize that all practices were unnecessary. It was only because our immaturity, still believing in separate self and me, that we thought a practice of awakening was needed. However, honestly speaking, if the above words, though possibly understood, cannot yet be fully realized, then I suggest we remain humble and sincerely engage with every practice, even every sadhana, live it out from morning till night. True sadhana is not achieved through sitting meditation or concentrating the attention to attain one pointedness. True sadhana is at most a reminder, reminding you of what you have always known, what you have always had, what has always been part of you, but which you and I have forgotten. These practices can be done at any time, even while sleeping. If a practice can only be done at specific times or under specific conditions, for example, requiring full lotus posture, then I don't consider it true sadhana. This point may contradict what you have heard in the past. You will find that the sadhana I speak of here is an accomplishment of realization. It treats you as someone who has already awakened long ago. At most, through practice, we gently and repeatedly, in every moment, give ourselves a light reminder. Awakening is effortless. It is not achieved by the eye or by any of our efforts. Rather, life awakens us. It is divine grace that awakens us and short circuits us. I believe this is the correct way to view any practice. Next, I hope that through each practice here, we repeatedly revisit these understandings. Check for yourself whether you can fully commit. I believe that if you have this realization, the role and the function of these practices will be completely different. Finally, gently set aside all concepts, including everything taught in this book. Set all concepts aside, and together with the practices, make a light and easy decision. In this life, in this lifetime, I must awaken.